Doing something for the first time is wild. And when you think of the outdoors, it's inherently wild. I think the most important thing for me is sharing an activity, sharing what I love with people that have not experienced that or have some kind of barrier related to it. The magic of being able to create that bond, that connection with an activity, a person, a place, that's special.
Welcome in another episode of Sincerely Yours Outdoors. Me and the broski again with a special guest.
Yes.
Really happy for the homie to be here today. I guess I can just set the scene. Like, we're in Ascend. I guess our second home again. I feel like, yeah. Point Breeze location in the yoga room. We're not doing yoga though. We're just kicking it with the homie. So here with Kareemah.
This is the quietest moment of my day. And I'm really
No joke.
enjoying it.
I was gonna say, I've actually seen things today and I'm like, this is probably the most peaceful it's ever been for you today.
This is it. I'm gonna
Solace
relish
for you.
in this moment.
Yeah, for sure. So Kareemah, introduce yourself. We turn this over to you to introduce however you see best fit and however you'd like to, so.
All right, my name is Kareemah Batts. I am from Brooklyn, New York, born and raised in New York City. And I am the founder of Adaptive Climbing Group, which is a 100% volunteer-run nonprofit organization that helps people with disabilities get access to the sport of climbing in ice, rock, and competition, and anything else we can possibly put in there if we can help. And, you know, a primary focus is, you know, we're just trying to increase the accessibility and making sure that people with disabilities in the sport are treated as, you know, the athletes that they are, and also trying to push forward leadership in that way too, and try to like kind of create those instances where, you know, people with disabilities are, you know, ones leading the charge in their access to the sport as well. But also, you know, I have many layers. I'm like an onion, like Shrek, and I do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I always tell students, like, well, how do you, I'm a seat filler. I sit in a seat and I try to set a space and a foundation for a lot of things that I find interesting in equity and access, and, you know, just try to help where I can, really, you know, wherever that might be in the outdoor industry. I think, because it's evolved over the time, I'm just like, sure, I could figure out how to do that too. And so I just kind of a little bit of everything.
Yeah, for sure. I was able to see you lead and facilitate and provide that voice, which was so beautiful today. So like, just want to give you kudos on that. Like, thanks for doing that in
Cool.
space.
I love telling people off. So. I'm like, hey, why isn't this trail accessible? You could be better, do more. Sorry. It's sort of, in my head it sounded like that. I don't know if that's what came out of my voice, but in my head it sounded like that's what I was doing.
It's so necessary for that and that voice to be heard. So
Yeah.
that's what drives forward change. So thank you for being a steward of that.
Oh, cool, thanks. I like getting invited to cool meetings, talking to state representatives, to like just kind of give a different perspective. And I think more than anything, I'm just trying to help people think differently. I'm not telling people what to do. I feel like I want them to come to that answer on their own, to give them the tools to do so. Because creating ownership of something is just so important in any way, whether it's in service of yourself or others.
I don't want to jump off of that because I want to circle back to that, but we do want to just, you know, set the groundwork. Like, Kareemah, what are you vibing to? What are you enjoying? Like, we try to make sure that this space is culturally aware.
Yep.
Like, we interview Black and brown people that love the outdoors inherently or have an affinity to it, but we also want to bring that culture piece back into it. So, like, what are you vibing to? I know that you
Can I be honest
were
with
kicking it to
you?
Lizzo with a
I
little bit ago.
You know what? I'm not over Lizzo at all. I might be over going to concerts because I'm like, I've been doing this for like, before she was popular. Like, nobody even knows that. Like,
You were the stan, the OG stan.
I am definitely OG stan. I'm OG
she
stan
was
when the
poppin'.
shows were free and I'm like randomly in Ohio somewhere. And so when I've traveled so much for work and usually by myself. After the sessions and the summits and the outdoor trips are done, I'm just like by myself in some room somewhere. And I'm like, oh, I'm bored. I ate dinner, so now what do I do? And so I'll search, and see what local band anywhere.
Yeah.
And I've discovered a lot of artists that I love even now that are on my playlist that some you know and some you don't know. I've been following them around the country for years. Some of them even like know me and they're like, oh, hey, bassist of, I don't know if I should name drop in this like.
We want free game. If you got someone in your playlist, we want
for
that free
instance,
game.
people don't, there's this climber who plays for Macklemore and is on tour for Macklemore, and he's been a climber for years. I've known him before that. And then I know some of the band members are taking the bangers now. And then actually the hairstylist of Lizzo still, I'll like send her a message, hey, I'm here at the show, and she'll like come out the side of the stage and like do our usual selfie. Cause like she's OG too with Lizzo. And so like I actually know the people surrounding the artist a lot because they've just seen me in these random tours of free shows before anybody knew that they existed. So that is, I love music. I will karaoke drunk or sober.
What's that song, The Choice,
Indoors, outdoors, I don't care. I'm that only person at the climbing competition when our U.S. team like wins a medal and they start playing like the United States. I'm the one who will sing to the top of our lungs.
We all know one person like that.
That one person
I'm
at the
glad
climbing
I can
comp.
say I know two now.
I am that chick. That is me. As far as outdoors, I have to tell you the downside of being an administrator and facilitating for others is I do not get to personally enjoy the outdoors as much as I used to. But I did like make a dedication to like get more into ice climbing over the last 2 years. So I was able to take at least a couple of personal ice climbing trips. And I like literally don't let athletes or anybody know I'm going most of the time. I think I posted one because it was with my friend Vasu, who's a skier with North Face, another amputee, and he had like this outdoor inclusion project in Montana. And then they were like, oh, what? Why didn't you tell us? And I didn't want to be like, well, I just needed something for myself, me and my friends. And I just wanted to try this thing out and not feel the pressures of being someone like weighing a community, And then a lot of times, it's kind of the weirdest thing. It's like, if you lead something in climbing, everybody's like waiting for you to climb. So they're like staring at you and like waiting for you to participate so they could say they've done this thing with you. And it feels almost like, well, then it's not for me anymore at that point. So if I do go out and I do climb and I do like really participate hard, I actually don't tell a lot of people that I'm doing it. Because I went through this process of like trying to create community and you kind of feel like I'm not even a part of it anymore. Like I'm outside of this community I created and I'm watching other people enjoy having a good time with each other and feeling in a safe space with each other. So it's kind of like a weird place to be in.
I mean, you gotta fill your cup before filling others, and I tell people
and so
all the time.
I'm trying to like find that balance, like wanting to be with my team but kind of not at the same time. It's like sometimes I'm like, I really want to be invited to go out with you guys, but then I'm also like someone who is a provider, and so then I'm always gonna feel like I'm at work. I feel like I'm in the role of a provider instead of one of a participant. Even if I was invited, like I'll be like, oh, okay, hey Kareemah, why don't you run up one? We've got all our participants climbing, and I don't feel like I want to do it because it doesn't. I don't know. It just it feels like I'm still at work. Like later, like it's really weird. It's like being the chef at a Thanksgiving dinner and you spend all day in this kitchen staring at this food, cooking this food to be the best food ever. And then when it's like, hey, why aren't you gonna fix you a plate? All of a sudden you're like not hungry for some reason, but you should be. You should be wanting to eat all of this food, but you just spent all day with it. Like, in an unenjoyable way, right? Like cutting the, and then like now you don't want to do it, and then you find yourself eating a plate later after everybody's eaten. Does anybody
And
ever
it
recognize
hits.
that?
Yeah.
And then it hits you like,
Yeah.
man, I really did good on this. This is some good ass sweet potatoes. I did that.
Yes.
But you're enjoying it quietly in private
Yeah.
somewhere.
For sure.
So that is how I would explain my experience.
And that is a really good
Outdoors.
way of like encapsulating that, because I
Oh,
think
thanks.
I experienced that a couple of times too, and I tell people, even in the previous episodes, that I'm selfish with my time as I run and as I run adjacently and train people. It's like I have to be on in this work kind of capacity, just as you alluded to. It's like, but I can run elsewhere, or I can have my own time where I can be selfish and just like consume it as I need to.
Yeah, I'm like trying to find in my schedule like when to plan my outdoor climbing, which climbing guide I'm gonna hit up and be like on a Wednesday. Like now, dude, when we do our trips, like even in the summit that we're at today, we're at the Climbing Wall Association Summit, and I only went once before, which was last year. And then, having our booth and like being there, I have not walked across and saw all the exhibitors yet because I cannot move.
Yeah.
I cannot leave the space because everybody's like, hey. And I'm like, man, I just want to eat this sandwich. I want to like sit down.
Yeah.
I want to like go see what the other brands are doing. And not that partnerships aren't great and not that paraclimbers don't need it. I'm like passing on some stuff to my friends who are running stuff for paraclimbing that I'm like making those connections and I'm about to pass on a lot of great opportunities. But like at the same time, I just didn't get a chance to really enjoy being in the space that I was in because I am playing that role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of great conversation here. I did want to just ask specifically, like, what was that beautiful moment for you outdoors? I mean, I think of me and Derek have shared previously around our first experiences and how we didn't think of it as a big deal when our grandfather pitched a tent in our backyard for the first time. But for me, that's literally my job now. Like, that's turned into my passion and my love. So I'm not saying that it turned into the passion and the love, but I feel like I know
I
the
mean,
response
I feel
from
like I'm
you,
doing
but
a lot of complaining, but I also love what I do
I know.
too.
I know
totally.
you
But
do.
when someone asks me about my personal experience in the outdoors, it's like, I'm like, wow, when was that last time we did something that wasn't a part of this program?
Yeah.
That's the part that I have a hard time finding the moments because, I don't think I do much outside of the program that's just like mine.
Yeah.
The last thing I did was going ice climbing in Montana in December, where I could say I did an outdoor thing that had nothing to do with any sort of community work or access work or anything.
Yeah.
That's how long it's been, where I took a trip, for myself, by myself, with my friends. That's a lot. That's sincerely a lot. And even when my team is like, oh, we got this, you can go off, I feel like I can't because I'm like, the event's still happening. I can't just go off and do things for myself. My brain won't allow me to really do that. It's kind of bad.
Yeah.
I'm working through it. I really am. Seriously.
That's the balance, of passion and continuing to work within that.
Yeah.
It's finding that balance to sustain that passion for you. Marcus mentioned kind of like the origin. Like, where did climbing start for you? Personally.
What I was, as a young adult cancer survivor, I was, going through treatment, going through different types of treatment, some self-treating, not incredibly healthy, right? Some therapy as well. And a young woman who was going through another round of chemo. We all visit each other. If I was finished with my round, I'm in my healthy portion of my month, and we go, hey, how you doing? Oh, I heard Amy is going through another round of this new. I'm gonna go check her out, see how she's feeling, how she's doing. And while I was doing that, she was showing me like videos and pictures of her getting to go kayaking, and I was like, yo, they let you go out and do stuff because they're like afraid we prick our finger, we'll bleed out, So they're like, yeah, it's just program that like takes you outside and you do all these trips, and they have scholarships and things like that. And so I signed up for a scholarship. They had like a list of these outdoor excursions, and I was going through a very depressive time in my life where I was dealing with, like body dysmorphia. So I had become an amputee. Not only was I trying to learn how to move through space again, but also dealing with how people perceived me as a person with a disability all of a sudden as well. And I was definitely day drinking a lot, and just not having a lot of healthy practices, and feeling that everyone surrounding me is part of the depression. Not that people like, I think it's very important to people understand that like sometimes you have to be taken out of a situation to be better to assess the situation. And I probably didn't even realize how far gone I had been until I went on that outdoor experience to like be in another space, not surrounded by family and friends and your house and all of these things, and really pushing your personal self to do something outside of your realm even before you became a person with a disability, before you became a cancer survivor. And so I did something that old or new Karima had never done before. And it definitely put me in another space mentally. It gave me a sense of triumph, because, I think that's something what's innate about really being outdoors climbing is you get to a point where you can't hear anyone sometimes. You could just hear your breath.
Yep.
You can hear your feet scrape against the rock. You can hear your gear clanking, and that's it. And you can't think about whether or not you left the stove on or how much gas is in your car. There's no space for it there, So it forces you, someone like me whose mind never stops, to stop, So I think that's what's awesome about it.
You're giving me chills. I'm like, yo, that's the same feeling I get when I'm outside climbing. It's like so emotional and an innate connection to a rock.
Yeah.
It just makes you shut the brain
Even
off.
hiking, I will do that because like the climbing accessibility is a little bit harder, especially if I, prefer ropes
Yep.
when I'm outdoors. So I might not always have someone to go out with, but I will take the drive up. It's about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. Go to the gunks where there is climbing and maybe just walking the trails even. Just walking the trails is so great for me. I'll make a little plan, go to Harriman State Park, do the South Trail up in Tuxedo or something like that. And that's like about, I don't know, 6 or 7 miles. And that's enough for me. Maybe I'll stop. Maybe I'll decide to stop at the lean-to and I want just a little bit more time and I'll stay overnight.
Yeah.
And then get up and go the downhill part of that trail in the morning. And so and I'll do that without, I won't tell anybody because I can't. I just can't tell anybody. Once in a blue moon, because if someone was to look at my social media, they would never think I went outside. And I think I need that kind of privacy sometimes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think at this point in my career, I need that kind of privacy.
For sure. And we had referenced it at one point. It's similar to my experience outside is like, I'm in this odd phase where even Derek referenced it. I was going out and doing all of these things and being selfish about them and like capturing these moments, video or still photography and saying like, this is so innate and close to me. I'm never going to share it with anyone. And I'm like kind of going in and out of that phase now. Like I said, I have a trip that I'm looking forward to skiing in Chile in September. And I'm like, I'm just going similar to what you referenced. Shut everything off. Just like, let me be one with the space again.
I think also when you become an advocate, people will just constantly want to see you put out
For sure.
content
Yep.
in regards to that. And I try to, make what I'm putting out about myself. I've seen how other people have to feel this force of sharing, once they get to a certain point. And so, I try to keep everything like, okay, adaptive climbing group over here, and Kareemah's over here. Kareemah likes to wear cute clothes. Kareemah likes music and plants, and you know what I mean. Not that I never post anything about like paraclimbing, but you would look through my Instagram and you wouldn't even know I spent any time outdoors. And I think for someone who works in because it's different when you recreate. But when when your passion becomes your job, you start to lose that balance of whether or not you're doing this for yourself or for the people you feel inundated to assist. And you want to assist, but then, you don't want to become so burnt out that you hate it now. Like you don't ever want to go anywhere. You don't want to do anything. And there was a point, I think, after the fourth year, I think, of the 11, that I was kind of feeling that way. And I think I did boxing for like 2 years or something like that. I think this was like 2015 to 17, maybe, actually. Yeah, I was taking boxing classes like 3 or 4 times a week. And I think I was punching people for sure. That was definitely just visualizing. And I liked the high intensity type of stuff. I'm more of like a burst than a marathon. And that's why I think I like doing a big hard climb route or like doing a quick sprint run or like, and then slowing down and then slowing down. I like that kind of sort of movement. It really invigorates me and kind of like raises the endorphin levels for me. And so that was my trend. I even brought other climbers in there to take classes with me in New York. I was like, Ashma, you here? Hey, Kai, you want to take a boxing class? Like a lot of climbers from my climbing gym. I remember I had like a birthday boxing party and there was just a bunch of climbers in there. They were like, my legs hurt. And I was like, yeah, because y'all not using them. So. They hike to the crag and that's it, for it. And they're like, it's so funny because, that particular sport, you're put in a permanent squatting position almost. Your legs are always bent and you're moving forward with your body power. And that part of our body as climbers, if you notice, everybody looks like inverted triangles after a certain point. So their legs are not getting that sort of like muscular use. And so everybody's legs are burning for days after like one class.
Boxing will do it.
And they're like, maybe we should be incorporating weighted squats into our climbs. Will that do anything? Maybe we'll do more dynamic moves that way. Let's work on that.
Well, I want to be conscious of your time because I definitely want you to climb today. So we definitely like to wrap up with 2 questions.
Sure.
One, free reign to shout out whoever, whatever you want to shout out. Like if it is your organization or anyone that you want to represent within the space.
Who do I want to shout out? I want to shout out my entire team. I want to shout out my entire paraclimbing community and all its allies, which are very intersectional. There are a group of people here who are not paid to be here that have been running this booth for CWA for 3 days and figuring out what time I'm supposed to be places and telling me. So all they got was a free CWA ticket and a bed. And they're like working their butts off. And then all of the folks doing our weekly programming right now, every day, coming up with great ideas, yelling at me when they disagree with me. Keep yelling at me when you disagree with me. It's the only way I'm gonna learn. It's totally fine. We'll have yell matches as long as at the end we're doing the work. I really don't care. And I'm also shouting out anyone who is brave enough to speak their truth. Like literally say how they're feeling in the moment, what they like, what they don't like, because that is what helps all of us become better people.
Agreed. I agree. I don't want to gas you up, but this last question is a big one. The future of climbing.
The future of climbing.
And you can take that from we're at a consumer, what?
The future of the
show.
sport, right?
You can go sport, you can go...
The future of the sport is up for grabs. That's what it is. From a lot of different realms. Coming from a competition, and then, I'm the person in the background. My athletes get to literally concentrate on the athletic part of that moment or the athletic part of that competition, but I'm, in the 5-year room planning stuff that's going around. And a lot of times I think some of my teams don't even understand why I'm doing the things I'm doing or making the decisions I'm making. Sometimes they don't like them or how I'm, moving. And then later on they're like, oh, this. And I was like, yeah, I worked on that 2 years ago. That's why this is here right now for today, know? And I think that what people don't realize right now is that this sport literally can go anywhere. It is, when I say it's up for grabs, I mean it's up for grabs. Like wherever you sit in this sport, climbing gym owner, athlete, outdoors, this is the period of time where in which you are going to shape the sport for the next 25 years. This is like another evolution, like a generational evolution, because now we're seeing all of these legends who are now about 60 are now taking the back seats. They're retiring. What are you gonna do, millennials and Gen Zers? You guys are now the persons in charge or becoming the next person in charge. What are you going to do with that? It's up for grabs.
And do you have advice for those people?
Everything I said before.
Rewind.
Speak your
Rewind the
Rewind.
episode.
Yeah.
Start from the
I
top.
mean, also, I do have one, like the instant generation. I call the instant generation is anyone who became famous in the outdoors in 2020 due to their Instagram following.
Yeah.
And because things happen and move so fast digitally, people feel that in real life in the world, it should do so the same. And because it passes in front of your screen and disappears, they think that's how systems work too, or that they should work. We should all burn it down. And I'm like, okay, but then what's the foundation after we burn down the system that doesn't work? Do you actually have a plan of action? Do you understand if you get rid of something completely without something to replace it that actually works and is integrated through a system that already has an existence in play for 100 years, that you're gonna mess up the thing that you're trying to create, right? Like, it has to be interwoven foundationally so that it can have sustainability to exist beyond the moment, you know? And so that's something that I'm like really advocating around these last 3 years. Yeah.
Extremely
That's gold.
important. Yeah.
We should wrap on that.
Yeah. That is going to be a wrap, for sure. Thanks for all the love. Thanks, Karima,
Karima, thanks for
Thank
being
you for
here.
having me.
Absolutely. It's a blessing.
All right, so let me put on my climbing leg. Let's
Yeah,
go.
Let's get it.
Peace.
Yes.